It's your boy Merv. Welcome to the Black and Gold Hour Show, a show where we talk about your New Orleans Saints, who are currently 2-1. And yeah, I know it's only been 3 games, but the New Orleans Saints and Who Dat Nation are sort of in a state of panic right now. And my job this week is to just provide my midweek thoughts to kind of help us simmer down as we head into a Sunday game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Superdome. I'm gonna be in the building for that one. The last couple of days, I've listened to so many talking heads, ESPN, NFL Network, my favorite Saints podcast, State of the Saints, Locked On Saints, Who Dat Confessional with our boy Deuce, but I want to get my midweek thoughts. How I feel after a couple of days to simmer down from the New Orleans Saints loss to the Green Bay Packers 17-18, and more importantly, the potential loss to Derek Carr as we head into Sunday's matchup, most likely. You know, he will be out on Sunday, but I want to kind of cover all of that in today's episode. I just want to keep it quick this week because we've talked about everything. We panicked enough, and now it's time to get back to work, business as usual for the New Orleans Saints, but it may be with a new quarterback, Jameis Winston, and we know how we feel about him. There's so many differing opinions, but we can win with him. I'm going to explain why in today's episode. Before we get into it, I'm not too proud. Remember to like and subscribe. I definitely want to build up the Black and Gold Hour Show, but I thank everyone for supporting. So blessed and truly honored every time somebody comments or likes or subscribes. I really appreciate it. It means everything to me, and this is what I'm here to do. So we're going to talk about it all in today's episode. In typical Saints fashion, you know I'm hyped. You know the Saints are looking good. We see a special teams touchdown. We see the defense balling. After watching Jordan Love in the first half, I wasn't too impressed with what I saw, even though I knew that he had the playmaking ability and he was going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. The New Orleans Saints had him looking like he was no competition. They were not ready for the New Orleans Saints, and they didn't even have their starting running back or their starting cornerback. It just looked like an easy game for the New Orleans Saints. They went up 17-0. I was excited. I was actually multitasking while watching the Saints game. I was actually editing some videos and just like watching the game. And as I continued to watch the game in the second half, my laptop began to close because the New Orleans Saints did what the New Orleans Saints do. They build you up for emotional distress. And that's what they did to your boy on Sunday. I mean, I'm watching the third quarter and the New Orleans Saints are unable to do anything. We see Derek Carr go out, and at the beginning of the third quarter, we see Jameis Winston come in. Now, this is the thing. Y'all know how I feel about my boy Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is an NFL starter. He's an NFL caliber quarterback at the highest level. We've seen him do it at the highest level. And honestly, I still thought the Saints should have won by 20, 30. You know, we should have kept the score maybe 27-7, maybe 35-14, something like that. I still felt confident about the New Orleans Saints going into the second half with Jameis Winston. And I'm not going to be one of these people that thinks the New Orleans Saints season is over now that Derek Carr is now week to week. But what I will say is there's obviously a sign that Pete Carmichael has no faith in Jameis Winston. He refuses to open up the playbook. He refuses to call plays that are strengths to Jameis Winston. We know he does throw those interceptions. He will throw it into coverage when he's pressured and when he's kind of flustered. He will make those decisions. But the New Orleans Saints' best chance to win is throwing those intermediate to deep routes. Now, I know with the intermediate to deep routes, that's going to leave Jameis Winston getting hurt because this offensive line is garbage. And y'all know me. I'm one of the positive New Orleans Saints fans, but this offensive line is utterly unacceptable. You can only do so much as a coach. Players have to go out and execute. Doug Marrone, has been two seasons since the New Orleans Saints offensive line has seemed to take a decline. As we know with the Drew Brees years, the offensive line was amazing. Drew Brees barely got hit, but also Drew Brees was getting the ball out quickly. And that's something we haven't seen from Derek Carr. And a lot of Saints fans, even in the building for the first week of the season, was saying that Derek Carr, he typically doesn't throw the ball away. He's holding on to the ball. He's looking for that deep route. And we love that about Derek Carr because he's a competitor, but he's got to get that ball out. And we got to call some plays that get those quick throws to Michael Thomas. We know what he does. We need to get some quick throws to Chris Olave. Rashid. Why did we only receive Rashid Shaheed in the first half? It doesn't make sense. And this is kind of why I created this episode today. I really wasn't going to say anything until closer to the weekend, closer to the Bucs game. But I know I see a lot of people talking about Doug Marrone. I see a lot of people talking about Jameis Winston. But I'm going back on the same bandwagon I was on last year. Pete Carmichael, he's got to go. He's not the answer for the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints need something fresh. The Drew Brees, Sean Payton era is over, and we just need something new for the New Orleans Saints offense. We brought something new in a few years ago with Dennis Allen, and we are able to see how his changes have made the New Orleans Saints a top 5 defense. But we need some changes on the offensive end. We need a fresh identity. We need to go find somebody at the collegiate level. We need to find something because Pete Carmichael is not the answer. His play calling is his timing is very interesting with some of the plays that he calls. Why not take advantage of the things that are obviously working? I just don't get it. It's just so frustrating at this point. Jameis Winston is the quarterback for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. Pete Carmichael will be the reason New Orleans Saints do not make the playoffs. Pete Carmichael, you got to do better. New Orleans Saints offense, you have to do better. You have to execute. You have to block. And the New Orleans Saints offense has just been unacceptable. The Green Bay Packers were held to 18 points. That should win you most games each week. I remember going in before the season, I said if the New Orleans Saints hold their opponents to 20 points a game, they'll win the majority of their games. And last Sunday was another example of holding a team to less than 20 points, and the New Orleans Saints offense could not show that it's a bigger problem than Pete Carmichael. And I know Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints front office don't like to fire people mid-season, and I think Pete Carmichael does do some great things well earlier this season, around week 1 and the first half of week 2. But right now, he's not the answer, and it's too many bad games over good games for Pete Carmichael. I think it's time for the New Orleans Saints to make some changes. I would like to see some quick throws. We're going to see what Alvin Kamara does, but this offensive line is unacceptable. Here are my quick thoughts as we head into the Sunday matchup. I don't even have a lot to say. I'm kind of just ranting, y'all. And thank you guys for listening to me. But as we head into the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I kind of just want to talk about what we can expect if Jameis Winston is the starter. I hear that he is likely the starter. I want to see some play action. I want to see a little bit of Alvin Kamara, get him out of the backfield, get the ball out of Jameis Winston's hands quickly. If you guys remember how Jameis Winston was handled in 2021 with Sean Payton, you see that it was quick throws. It was allowing Jameis Winston to kind of get in the rhythm, and then in the second half kind of open things up with the intermediate routes with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. You know that can do a lot of damage. Starting off the game with a game plan of quick throws, get Jameis Winston in the groove, get his confidence up instead of throwing him right to the fire, with these deep intermediate routes. I believe that the quick throws will help the offensive line, help Alvin Kamara get some quick catches out of the backfield, be able to make plays, escape linebackers. You know what Tampa Bay brings on the defensive end. So that's what we need in the first half. And then in the second half, I'm thinking we continue to keep Rashid Shaheed involved in the game first and foremost. We allow Chris Olave to do what he does. That dude is a beast. I don't even buy NFL player jerseys. The only jersey I have currently that is on this roster right now is Alvin Kamara. And we know what Alvin Kamara means to New Orleans. But Chris Olave, he might get his jersey, but I might have to rock one time this season because this dude is elite. And we know what Mike Thomas brings, but Chris Olave is elite on that other side of the football. So I like seeing Chris Olave continue to make those one-handed catches, and I would like to see them pay off with actual wins. And, that the New Orleans Saints offense can score more than 25 points. That would be nice for once. All in all, I think the New Orleans Saints the season's not over by any means. Their CARR is week to week. And I think, just listening to Raiders fans, we know he's a competitor. We know, how much football means to him. We know how fond he is of the Saints and the city of New Orleans. I know he's going to do everything he can to get back on the field. But I guess this video is just a quick rant. We're going to have to see what Pete Carmichael does. It's obvious at this point that there is a lack of trust in Jameis Winston, but now as Saints fans, we now have a 100% lack of trust in Pete Carmichael, and many of us were done last season. But at this point, we're just going to have to see what happens. So I don't know if you were watching this video really to get encouragement or what, but I'm just trying to see what happens on the offensive end for the New Orleans Saints, because the defense can't win you games, and in the playoffs, you got to score points, especially in today's NFL. I don't know what really is going to happen next, but these are my midweek thoughts. I feel on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, if the New Orleans Saints can still get into the playoffs with this offense, I would say I'm at around a 5 right now, because we got to see that offensive line improve. I think if the offensive line improves, even with Pete Carmichael, we could still make the playoffs, especially with the way the defense has played for the majority of the season, except the second half against Green Bay. Then we'll continue to see success. But the New Orleans Saints have a game. The Bucs coming up, Patriots, then Houston, And then the season is pretty smooth so far for the New Orleans Saints as far as competitors and competition, but no matter who you play, if your offensive coordinator is horrible with decision making and not, getting the playmakers the ball, then New Orleans Saints season will be over before you know it. But there's still a lot of hope left. There's 14 games left in the NFL season. I'm a little deflated from the New Orleans Saints loss on Sunday because it was unnecessary. It was just one of those games, like, you look back at the end of the season, you're gonna be like, why did we lose that game? Green Bay gave us the game. They basically handed it to us and said, hey, win the game. But all in all, we're going to see what happens on Sunday. I'm excited to be in the building. We know what the Bucs can do, but the New Orleans Saints are going to come strong, and we know what Jameis can do. So I'm not too worried going into that game. I think that's being a home game. That should be a W for the New Orleans Saints, and then we'll have the Patriots to look forward to on October 8th. But, before we go, I got to give y'all a Merv Speak segment, and it's coming straight from my Spotify playlist, actually. This week, I kind of been listening to an album called Make Room by Christian singer Jonathan McReynolds. And this album has been on repeat for the last week because it's just so good. It's so timely for me right now. This season, I kind of want to do something different and just kind of invite y'all into my life and kind of not just give y'all general things, but things that I'm actually applying to my life. And on that album, he has a song called God is Good. And we know God is good all the time, and all the time, y'all better have said it back. But on the song God is Good, he has a line in there. Actually, it's the first line, and it says, may your struggles prove that God is good. And sometimes in our life, it makes me think how, as we're working to be our best selves, as we're working to be the best version of ourselves, we sometimes have challenges, we have things we're overcoming, we have issues, we have, different stresses and things that kind of plague us throughout our journey. And I think the fact that we do have those things allows God to be glorified even more. If we were perfect, if everything was perfect about us, if our life was perfect, financially everything was perfect, if health-wise everything was perfect, then how can God really be glorified? If we can do everything on our own, how can we glorify God? I think it's best that we do have these challenges that we're always going to be working throughout our entire life. And the fact that God still uses us is why he is so good. The fact that we are undeserving, but he still uses us, that he still makes us leaders, that he still makes us places, people of inspiration, that he still brings us love, and he still brings us protection, and he allows us to have that same love and compassion for others is just another reason why God is so good. So just remember that although you may have struggles and challenges in your life, just know that God is good. Know that he's working, and know that these weaknesses that you believe that you have can be turned into strengths, and actually sometimes they already are strengths. And just remember that God is working and everything is for a purpose. Remember, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. Remember, God is good all the time, and all the time, that's strike two. Be blessed. Stay safe. Peace.